Good morning. Welcome all of you on Wednesday, 11th week in Ordinary Time. Today we have a longer passage from the Gospel of Matthew, from chapter 6. A passage which speak about almsgiving, prayer, and fasting. In the text there was also part about prayer of our Father, but this passage has been taken for now. I believe will be tomorrow, given us as separate days the prayer Our Father. So today will be just three passages about almsgiving, prayer in general, and fasting. The three realities which are invited to be done secretly, in secret, something what is known only to God. So let us listen first the passage about almsgiving. I will try to divide today's gospel in three parts, in three separate videos. So chapter 6, verses from 1 to 4. Be careful not to parade your uprightness in public to attract attention. Otherwise, you will lose all reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give alms, do not have it trumpeted before you. This is what the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets to win human admiration. In truth, I tell you, they have had their reward. But when you give alms, your left hand must not know what your right is doing. Your almsgiving must be secret, and your Father who sees all that is done in secret will reward you. The Gospel of the Lord. So first part of today's Gospel is about almsgiving. Of course, all the three parts will have the same structure, saying not to do certain things, not to have a certain attitude, and saying when you, directing this to those who are listening to Jesus, his apostles, to you and me, when you give almsgiving, do it in secret. Interesting thing when speaking here about almsgiving, about, we will call it act of mercy. Here is used word uprightness, an act of justice. In the Jewish traditions, already in the time of Jesus until today, almsgiving was described as by word tzadikah, which means justice. That it refers that our religious obligation to do what is right and just. That giving to others is understood as an act of virtue, but as act of justice, not as much as act of mercy. It's very important to see this, that is our obligation. In rabbinic tradition, it was said, for example, that giving to the poor, since it is obligation, we have to do it. And if we don't, that we'll have to spend the money on the doctors. I was kind of saying that if your hand will be closed for the poor, you will have to open it in front of the doctor. It's some way underlying that if we don't spend, if we don't fulfill this duty of ours, if we don't share, if we don't fulfill this act of justice, or we can call it of mercy, of grace, sooner or later, the money will, have to be spent for something else. And if instead, if we if we share, we'll have blessings from the Lord. In the scriptures, it's already said that the almsgiving covers many sins. That being merciful, I mean, that will be something what helps us on the last judgment, the time when we'll have to, maybe we see our limitations, and maybe sometimes it's very difficult in the loving, especially in the standards what are set in front of us in this Sermon of the Mount, to love the enemies, to forgive always, to all these things what was said, to experience happiness and blessing when we are persecuted, uh, and to pray for those who persecute us. All these things what was already said or will be said, that almsgiving is the thing which helps to cover our own uh, shortcomings, our limitations, our sins, our mistakes. So it's actually a help. So many times, seeing maybe a beggar on the street, it is not as much as we help him. It is maybe good to think, at least at times, that it is him who helps us, give us this opportunity uh, for this act of charity, to also to cover our own sins if we enter in that invitation. So here in the text we have another few passages interesting. I mean, when I speak, for example, about do not have it trumpeted before you. It is very important also maybe to see some historical context, that in the temple there were different money boxes and different shapes, shapes which reminded or resembled trumpets. Some of them were made of in the same way or the same material as trumpets. Trumpets were used to announce certain events, feasts, like we today we have in the churches. We have bells, they have trumpets, but as well the money boxes were made of something like a goat horn, and it made quite a clatter, a sound, a noise when the coin going down the funnel. You could hear the weight of the offering. So bigger coin, more of coins, bigger sounds. There are some different attempts to see how it could look like, something maybe like that, or presented in one of the movies, something like that. Maybe, I don't know if you can see, but something, I mean, it's just attempts, but something described in writing on the time of Jesus. Early Christianity, it was speaking about it. Then we hear about that your left hand must not know what your right is doing. I mean, of course, interpreted about our two hands, I mean, to be so spontaneous in giving that there will be no time, I mean, of communication between one hand and the other. Yeah, that could be interpreted in that way, but also the left and right hand can signify the people who are very close to you. I mean, the one whom you trust the most. Sometimes we say this is my right hand person. So to have right and left hand person, and someone who is your friend, someone who is trusted, someone who is very close to you, and even those should not know what you are giving in almsgiving. So to do it in secret. And the most important element, it is what is done in secret will be rewarded by the Father. If we get thank you from the people, recognition, then we lost already the reward what was prepared for us. And to see that this certainty that the Lord will reward us, that the Lord will come really because He see what is done in secret. Certainly, invitation to think, to reconsider what I do, how I give the money, and to do it in secret, that nobody will know, not in the family, not neighbors, not friends. Do it in secret for those who are in need, but knowing that it is also to help to cover our sins. So that will be about almsgiving in secret. Have a great day.